The 2010 Honda Indy Edmonton was definitely another very controversial race. The race took place on July 25, 2010 at the Edmonton City Centre Airport in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. This was the 7th round of the 2010 IndyCar season, and it was the 3rd time the IndyCars took to the track at the Edmonton City Centre Airport. And the 3 years prior to that, the Champ Car World Series took to the track. The green flag was to come out at 4 p.m. local time, and this was back when the IndyCar series was on Versus, which was definitely interesting. Pole sitter and championship leader Will Power would lead the field to the green flag.
Start this race on the alternate reds, and the green Apex Brazil green flag is out, and we are racing in Edmonton.
So is everybody all clean as they sort themselves through all that pavement? It's looking pretty good.
Got a lot of racetrack to work with.
TK on the high side there, starting in the way back in the green and white 7-Eleven car.
You can bet he's going to make his way to the front of the field as quickly as he can. Looks behind Danica Patrick for an opportunity there. Meltdown has spun already.
As you can hear in Bob Jenkins' voice, I can't tell if he is surprised or just purely disappointed that Meltdown already spun out. She was literally running in last place with nobody around her, and she overdrove the corner and spun out. Because of the size of the track, the safety team was easily able to get to her, get her refired, and get her back going without having to bring out a yellow flag. Rafael Matos would be the next one to find trouble, taking a quick rip through the grass after some contact.
There's a problem with the left rear.
Oh, a little push from PT.
And that is what PT has called the chrome horn.
Well, you know, you had just said how much Tracy had moved up. There's the hit, a little tap to the left rear. Sure enough, that's why it's flat.
I've definitely already said this more than once on this channel, but Paul Tracy doing Paul Tracy things. The green flag would remain out and the drivers would reach the end of their pit window and began making green flag stops around lap 33 and 34. Danica Patrick would be the next one to go through an excursion through which seems like endless grass, as she almost made contact with Baguette and avoided it by going straight on into the grass.
Probably didn't damage her race car, but she took in enough grass into the radiator probably that she still needs to get down pit road. Let's see what happened.
Oh, goes to the inside of Baguette, and whoa, I don't think I have room after all. And then you're out trying to find the straightest path that you can back to the racetrack. It just happens to be a really long way.
Danica would be able to continue on without further issue. Justin Wilson would find issues next. Earlier in the race, he had a break in the left rear shock. They were able to repair it and he was able to continue on, but he would run into more trouble where the other side would break and he would actually end up going for a spin before bringing his car into the pits. They would make repairs to the car and he would continue on several laps down.
And we just saw that universal sign from Justin that something wasn't right in the rear end. When something isn't right in the rear end and you go for the brakes, you get spun around there.
Yeah, that's the car just
under straight line braking right there.
Just totally gets out. It's like you lose one of the corners, almost like a wheel coming off.
On board with him. Let's see, he's going into turn 10, braking right now.
Drag.
Yeah, you could hear just something dragging as...
That would not bring out a full course caution, but this would. Alex Lloyd would spin off into the grass and unfortunately stalled his car. There is no replay of this, which was kind of weird, but nonetheless, it was just a self-spin into the grass and he ended up stalling, which caused the first full course caution of the race. The full course caution would be a quick one, and Will Power would lead the field back to green on lap 49.
Will Power. And there's Hideki Muto moving over to allow Helio Castroneves to
so much for
set
the
his
bunching
sights
up
on the front.
Power already.
The return to the green flag would be pretty short-lived, as Simona Di Silvestro and EJ Vizo made contact, putting Simona face first into the tire barrier, and this would unfortunately once again bring out another full course caution.
Did she do it by herself, or was there some help?
EJ Vizo, with whom she was racing for 7th position.
So a little bit of help.
Yep.
Yep.
Paul Tracy's moved up to 7th.
And he takes a spot from his teammate.
Wow.
Simona was able to continue from this incident. Like the full course caution just before it, it was a very quick one, only 2 laps to clean it up, and Will Power would lead the field back to green on lap 53.
Brazil in the mail. Apex Brazil green flag comes out, back to competition. And they squeeze down into turn 1. Viso with a drive-through penalty. Ooh, we saw some tire
big time smoke. Oh!
We got a
yellow
car
bleeds
crash.
Yellow again.
Tagliani,
Romancini, and Tagliani.
The field made it through turn 1, but big trouble would strike and several cars would get involved in an incident, bringing out the full course caution once again.
Definitely some chaos back in the field there on that
When he
restart.
peeled off to the pits, I was like, what's going on here? Danica Patrick gets up the inside of Baguette, and then there was contact. And that looked like Kanaan.
Yeah.
Kanaan touched Tagliani, and Tagliani just speared poor Romancini, who was just trying to get out of the way.
Here's Tony's on board.
Riding on board with TK. Now look off to the left. Right there is Tags. Where's the contact? There it is. Tag stays on the gas there, just laying down the tire smoke. Okay, from Tag's view, look at this, Jan.
Okay, I'm giving Kanaan room. Everything is good. Oh, it's not good.
And that didn't take much. That was just the left front.
Wow.
Romancini just nowhere to go on that, but it was just a little contact from the left front of Kanaan to the right rear of Tags. It doesn't take that much.
Tagliani and Romancini's days would come to an end here. Tony Kanaan was able to continue on, and Danica Patrick got some damage from this as well, but she was also able to continue on in the race. This time the cleanup would be a little more extensive, and the yellow would remain out for 4 laps. None of the leaders hit pit road though, and Will Power would lead the field back to green on lap 58.
Slowing everybody down before they get into 13 and 14, just from when the officials came and said, hey, that was too fast. We saw guys further back in the queue just kind of popping out, saying, come on.
On board with Paul Tracy running 7th.
Got by Hunter Ray, though.
Make
He got
it
to the
6.
inside of turn 1 and took Hunter Ray. Now he's past Kanaan, but that's not for position.
But he's given himself a good cushion to this guy right here who are on board with Hunter Ray of coming right back at him.
Now remember, Paul Tracy had front wing damage, but he's since made a pit stop. If you have a broken front wing, you can add front wing into it and get it rebalanced.
The field would finally be able to get away cleanly, and the broadcast showed some pretty cool onboard shots from a few different drivers. This would kick off the second longest green flag stint of the entire race, of 32 laps. With 21 laps to go, leader Will Power, who hasn't relinquished the lead all day except on pit stop cycles, and second place Helio Castroneves both pitted. However, there was one big difference on this pit stop. Will Power took the blacks, and Helio Castroneves took the Firestone reds, which was an interesting strategy, but Helio's team had to try something different, otherwise they would probably just end up running second to Will. Just a few laps after the final pit stop, Helio's softer tires allowed him to rapidly run down Will Power, and he made his move going into turn number 1 to take the lead and get past Will Power, something no one was able to do all day long.
Well, that was the case. As you watch this replay of the run, Will Power failed to use the overtake button because he had used it earlier. That means the reset precluded him from being able to use it as a defensive weapon.
Wow, how about that?
So back then, push to pass worked a little bit differently. Nowadays, you have a certain amount of seconds and you pretty much can use it as much as you want until it runs out. But back then, you had a certain number of pushes that lasted for a duration of time. I believe it was 10 seconds. But you couldn't just use it one after another. There was a little bit of a reset time between the pushes, and that's what really caught Will Power out there and allowed Castroneves to get by him. And then Helio started stretching his lead. It really looked like Helio Castroneves had this race firmly in hand. But with only 6 laps to go, the one thing Helio did not want to see was a yellow flag, and that's exactly what happened when Simona Di Silvestro stopped on track with a fuel pump failure, which would end up leading to a late race restart. And that is where things got pretty controversial and interesting. The field would take the green coming to 3 laps to go. Helio Castroneves ahead of his teammate Will Power.
Off of corner 14, here we go, 3 laps to go.
Power is on the overtake. Looking to the outside, just like he did to Wilson.
Can't do it. In fact, he loses second to Dixon.
Dixon Franchitti looks now.
Dixon just forces his way through.
Power back to third.
He was trying to carry that momentum on the outside going into one.
And he had to give his teammate room. He had to get a little bit wide to be sure he didn't take out Castroneves. He left the door open, and Scott Dixon pounced.
But what a great, I mean, you got to go for it.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
You're here to win.
Power got on the overtake assist early, trying to get the jump, but here's what happened as they went into one. He's to the outside.
And he's ahead of him right there, but he doesn't have the inside. Look at him slide.
He starts to slide, and he can't pinch Castroneves anymore. And then, of course, Dixon just aggressively says, "I'm coming through."
Well, he saw
Yeah.
he saw Power up there just sliding around on the top side.
Castroneves with a drive-through for blocking?
What? We got to see where that is, guys.
Well, that has to be turn one. But I mean, when you're the leader, you can pick your lane. And here's Briscoe. Look at him putting the move on Tracy.
And vice versa, how that was.
They're going to.
Wow.
Scott Dixon is the leader of this race. They are going to penalize Helio for blocking.
You could hear the confusion in Bob Jenkins' voice. No one can believe that he got penalized for blocking there. And I can't believe it either. It's just one of the most bizarre, dumbass calls by Brian Barnhart. Probably worse than that New Hampshire race. And it basically just handed the win off to Scott Dixon, who did make a nice move to get around Will Power and took advantage of the situation.
Here comes
And he's
the
going to
checkered
take
flag.
the checkered flag on the racetrack.
Helio will take it first, but did Scott Dixon win the race? Oh, man, what an afternoon of racing.
Kind of wondering where we go with all this right now, huh?
Another win, I guess, for Chip Ganassi. He won earlier today at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in the Brickyard 400, and apparently wins with Scott Dixon here in Edmonton.
So they end up giving the win to Scott Dixon in one of the worst calls in IndyCar history. As you can see by this replay right here, Helio literally went straight. He doesn't have to go to the left side of the track to make the right turn. He literally went straight. Just an absolutely horrible call. And what happens next is definitely warranted.
Don't often see Helio emotional like this and angry. That was Kevin Blanche that he was having words with.
The reason he is upset is because he did not chop his teammate. He chose a line. Once Will Power swung out, he swung out a little more so he could turn into the corner. Now, if Brian Barnhart has defined a line you don't cross, that's got to be his call.
Yeah, you're right, but I don't think it wouldn't have affected that outcome either way. It wasn't that. And like you say, for Helio to be that upset about it, he doesn't think he did that at all. He wasn't intentionally doing anything to have that kind of mannerism right now.
Right. Charles Burns, one of the security people that worked for the ISOT IndyCar Series.
Don't take on the security guys.
No. Charles is a former state trooper here in Indiana.
He was very relaxed.
And boy, he's been angry, trying to cool down. I can imagine what had to be running through your head. Can you put it into words?
Man, I said it once in Detroit in 2008, and I'll say it again. I have nothing smart to say. It's the only thing I can say. Talk to my attorneys.
Hey, let's take a look at what happened, or he might not even want to take a look. Do you want to see the race itself? I know you haven't seen it except for first person. Do you want to see what it looked like, what they're making that call on?
Sorry, man. I 2 laps to go. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I never moved my line. I actually gave him outside. And when you go side by side like that with your teammate, and the guy just swept, it's literally just take it away from you. It's just absurd. I mean, but anyway.
What did you mean by talk to your attorneys? I thought we were through with that at Long Beach last year.
I'm being sarcastic.
All right, buddy. You can tell Helio Castroneves, he can't even put it into words. He's still disgusted, hasn't talked to the officials, and he was in the air with a couple of officials, but you know they aren't the ones that made the decision. Brian Barnhart is.
And just like that, Brian Barnhart makes another dumbass decision and literally snatched the win right out from Helio Castroneves. Nobody, including Will Power himself, thought that Helio did anything wrong. That was just good hard racing, and it was a huge mistake, and definitely a black eye on IndyCar. Helio literally went after anyone that he could see that worked for IndyCar, the head of security, the flag man, anyone that he can, to vent his displeasure, and rightfully so. I would have been furious if I was in his situation. And I'm just glad that he never said anything that he would regret on the TV interview. Helio was fined $60,000 by IndyCar for his post-race meltdown, and it was later revealed that former IndyCar CEO Randy Bernard, who was the CEO at the time of course, considered suspending Castroneves, but because of Helio's popularity and having an overall good reputation of being professional and friendly, he elected not to. So that's going to wrap up this video on the 2010 Honda Indy Edmonton fiasco. I hope you guys enjoyed that. This was a highly requested video, so make sure you hit the like button to show your support. And if you're a new viewer, subscribe to the channel for more great IndyCar and other motorsports related content just like this. Once again, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I hope I'll see you guys in my next one. Take care, everybody.